Good morning. My name is Tanya Stewart Shaw. I'm with the Office of the Ohio Consumers Council. And what I want to give you this information on utilities and credit. So let's start off with a true or false question. True or false, the utility will report my payments to the credit bureau each month. Is that true or false? The answer to that is false. In Ohio, typically the utility companies do not report your utility payments every month to the credit bureau. Utility bills have very minimal impact on your credit score. And in some ways that can be good, in some ways that can be bad. Simply because if you have active service and you do pay your utility bills a little late, you can rest assured that the utility companies are not going to report that late payment each month to the credit bureaus. However, unpaid utility bills will get reported to the credit bureaus if they go to collections, and that will essentially affect your overall credit score. So let's talk about getting utility services and why your credit matters. If you are applying for utility service, you are essentially applying for credit, and the utility company sends you a bill at the end of each month. So they're actually extending you credit. So they extend credit by providing you with gas or electric or telephone service, and that means they expect at the end of the month that you will pay those utility bills. So when you apply for service, the utility company will look at how you've paid your bills in the past, including for utilities where you've lived before, to determine your credit risk. So the utility company may even ask you for your your Social Security number to establish service, just like as if you were applying for a credit card or a car loan or anything like that, because they are essentially extending credit services to you. So the better your credit score, the easier it will be for you to obtain utility service. So establishing credit with a utility company. To establish credit with the utility company, you must meet one of the following criteria. You must be a credit-worthy property owner. So if you have property in your name, typically you can get utility service in your name at that particular address. Or you have a prior account with a similar type of utility within the past 2 years, where you did not have the utility service disconnected, or you did not pay your utility bills late on more than 2 occasions. Or you can secure what's called a guarantor, which is a customer of the same utility, and that particular customer would be responsible to secure up to 60 days of service if you, as the consumer, you fail to pay your utility bill. So the guarantor basically is acting as a co-signer for at least 60 days of utility service if you do not meet one of the other criteria to establish utility services on your own. So let's talk about security deposit. If you fail to meet the criteria of credit worthiness, you may be asked to pay a security deposit to establish your utility service with the company. The deposit cannot exceed 130% of the annual average monthly bill. So what the utility company will do is, if they look at your credit score, you're not, and they deem you as being non-credit worthy, they will ask for a deposit. They will calculate the deposit based on the premise, so the average monthly bill at the premise that you're applying for service, plus 30%. So it should not exceed 130% of the annual average monthly bill. This is for new utility customers. So if you're moving to a location and you've maybe never had utility service in your name, you go to apply for utility service with one of the local utilities, then they may ask you to either establish credit worthiness. If you cannot establish the credit worthiness, they will ask you to pay a security deposit. So, can a utility company charge a security deposit if I already have utility service? The answer to this is yes. So remember, you can start off as being a credit-worthy customer, and you don't have to pay a security deposit if you own your own your own home and things like that. But under certain circumstances, the utility company can ask for a security deposit once you have already established utility service. So if the service gets disconnected for non-payment, the utility company can ask for a security deposit in addition to whatever the amount that caused your service to get disconnected. So you got to pay the past due balance, and then they will tack a security deposit onto that amount as well, because now they have deemed you as being a credit risk. Also, if you do have utility service, maybe you've avoided disconnection, but you're continuing to pay your utility bills late, you've had at least 2 consecutive late bills that have a past due balance, the utility can assess a deposit onto the account. So you can be asked to pay a security deposit. Or if the customer has had service disconnected and the account has finalized, so say, the service got disconnected, you did not reestablish utility service within the preceding 12 months, or the service was disconnected for a fraudulent act, something to the effect of maybe reconnecting the service without permission or without paying, you've tampered with the meter, anything like that, the utility company can deem you as a credit risk, and they can ask you for a deposit even if you at some point established credit worthiness along the way, and then you didn't pay your bills on time, or there was some tampering or fraudulent act. So they can still come back and ask you for a security deposit even if you have established utility service. So what can I do if I cannot afford the deposit? We talked about this a little earlier. In lieu of paying a security deposit, a consumer may get a credit-worthy guarantor, which is kind of like a cosigner, to secure payment of the bills for 60 days of service. So that means you got to go maybe to a relative or a friend or someone that is already a customer of the same utility that would be willing to sign for up to 60 days of utility service if for some reason you default. So you can get a guarantor. If you are in a situation where you cannot actually get a guarantor, you can't afford what the utility company is asking for as far as a deposit, you can ask the utility company to spread the payment out over 1 to 3 months. Typically, all the utility companies in Ohio will make a payment arrangement on the actual deposit, or a consumer can use what's called the special reconnect order, and that's only available typically mid-October through April 15th. But what the special reconnect order does is it allows the customer to pay a maximum payment of $175. So utility company can be asking for a $500 deposit. If we are in the time frame of the special reconnect order, then the consumer can pay a maximum payment of $175, pay that, and then work out a payment plan toward the remaining amount. So that is one way that consumers can avoid paying a security deposit if they can't afford the full amount up front. So will the security deposit be refunded? Of course, everyone wants to know, if I pay the security deposit, will the security deposit be refunded? If the service is discontinued for any reason, the utility company will refund the deposit plus any accrued interest. So they do have to pay interest to the final bill. So you move away or you move out of the service territory. I know here in this area, the electric company is Ohio Edison, and the natural gas company is Dominion. So if you were to final the account with, we'll just say Ohio Edison, move up to Cleveland Electric Illuminating, you would be subject to getting your refund. If there's an outstanding balance on the final bill, the refund amount would go to the final bill. Okay? If there's any excess owing due back to the consumer over the final bill, then the utility company would typically refund that in the form of a check. If the service is still active, the security deposit will be refunded after 12 months. So then what happens is once the utility company asks for a security deposit is reviewed after 12 months. So consumer can get the deposit refunded if they pay their utility bills for 12 consecutive months without having been disconnected, or if they have paid their utility bills without having more than 2 occasions paying late. So if they pay it by the due date, they would be subject to having that deposit refunded to them within 12 months. And the customer is not delinquent at the time of the review. So the utility company will review the account within the 12 months, after 12 months, to see if the consumer has met the guidelines to have the security deposit refunded to the account or back to them. So let's talk about situations where consumers get into, and the reason why some utility companies do require security deposit, especially on active accounts. So what you can do if you can't pay your utility bill, if you find yourself falling behind on utility bill or you expect to fall behind, you need to contact the utility company. All the utility companies are required to make payment arrangements. Typically, I say this all the time, utility companies will really work with consumers to keep their utilities connected, simply because if the utility service is not connected, then the company is not making money. They want you connected to the meters. They want you using their service. That is how they make money. So they will work with you. If you contact them and say, hey, I'm not going to be able to pay the full bill this month, I'm falling behind, utility companies will make payment arrangements or provide you with resources for assistance to keep those utilities on. They're obligated to do that. So the utility companies are obligated to make payment arrangements to help you avoid disconnection. They will provide you with resources that will help you pay your utility bills. So let me go over some of the payment plans that are available if you find yourself in a situation where you cannot pay your utility bills. These extended payment plans, all of the regulated utility companies in the state of Ohio that's regulated by the Public Utilities Commission, they have to offer one of 4 of these payment plans, plus another payment plan that's based on the household income. So the 1/9 payment plan basically requires 9 equal monthly payments on the past due balance in addition to a budget payment plan. So that helps consumers pay off the past due amount. In addition, when the current usage comes in, they're only paying it based on a budget. Then there's a 1/6 payment plan. It requires 6 equal monthly payments in addition to the consumer paying the current bill. The 1/6 payment plan, especially during the winter, gets a little tough because you're making a payment on the past due, the past due amount, plus you're still having to pay your current charges each month, which during the winter months, especially here in Northeast Ohio, those gas and electric bills can get pretty high. So the 1/6 payment plan is available as well, though. And then we have what's called the winter heating season plan. Sometimes the utility companies refer to this as the 1/3 plan, but what the winter heating season plan does is it allows the consumer to pay 1/3 of their total account balance each month. So as long as they pay 1/3 of what's owed on the account, it will maintain their utility service from November 1st through April 15th. Now, after April 15th, what's going to happen is there's going to be a balance out there, because if you maintained your utility service by only paying 1/3, that means you weren't taking care of the full amount. After April 15th, then consumers can either pay off what's owed on the account, or they can ask to go on another payment plan to pay off what's owing on there. But the winter heating season plan is available as well. Pay 1/3 of what you owe, and the utility company will maintain your utility service. And then, of course, we have budget billing. A lot of our seniors really like budget billing because it allows for a budget, allows you to pay a flat amount each month based on your previous annual usage. Utility companies are really good about, averaging out how much, you've used each month, and they come up with a budget amount. Typically, the way that companies are able to do this is our habits really don't change. So whatever you used previously in last January, you're probably going to use very close to that this coming January. They do take into the account, the weather and days that are below like 32 degrees. But budget billing does allow consumers to really get a handle on their budget, so you know exactly how much you're going to have to pay each month under the budget plan. Again, these plans are mandated by the Public Utilities Commission. Each utility company in the state of Ohio, they have to offer one of these plans. That is why it's very important for consumers, if they fall behind on their utility bills, to reach out to the utility company and say, hey, I need some assistance. Can you put me on a payment plan? They should offer one of these payment plans. In addition to those payment plans, there's what's called the percentage of income payment plan. Now, the percentage of income payment plan, better known as PIP Plus, it allows consumers to pay their monthly utility bills based on their household income. It is an income-based program, so the customer has to be at or below 175% of the federal income guidelines to qualify for PIP. They have to have a regulated utility, and then they also have to apply for the Home Energy Assistance Program. And then these are the guidelines, so for any consumer that meets these guidelines based upon the house size of the household, they can apply for the PIP program. The PIP program allows consumers to pay 5% of their household income for their main heating source, which is probably typically gas. They pay 5% of their monthly household income for electricity, or $10, whichever is more, because we have some consumers who, if they don't have what's called accountable income, they can go on what's called $10 PIP, okay? For consumers that have strictly electric household, all electric household, they would pay 10% of their monthly household income, or $10, whichever is more. So there are actually available programs to, again, help consumers with their utility bill. Under the PIP Plus program, the customer is not responsible for the remaining balance of the current utility bill. So it's actually a really good program for consumers that meet the income guidelines. They can pay their PIP installment each month based on their household income. They're not responsible for the actual usage that they use. If they bring debt into the program, they get what's called a 124th credit for making on-time payments. You heard me talk about security deposits earlier. PIP customers are not charged security deposits under any circumstances. PIP customers are not charged late payment fees under any circumstances. So the PIP Plus program is a really good way for consumers who are at or below 175% of the federal income guidelines to pay 5% of their household income per utility to maintain their utility service, okay? And then this is just a little example of, you know, what a PIP program looks like. So as a customer, maybe someone falls behind, they call the utility company again, I can't pay my bill. Utility company may say, well, you know, there's some resources out there that are available. So under this example, say a customer owes $1,200, they're eligible for PIP, right? So they get placed on PIP for $54. So say their installments based on their household income, and their PIP installment's $54. Their actual bill, they use $350, all right? So as long as they pay that $54, they're not responsible for the $350. Not only that, they get what's called a Delta credit in here, which is the difference between the $350 and the $54, so that $296 completely goes away, okay? In addition to that, because they owed $1,200 when they came to the program, they get what's called a 124th arrearage credit. So they're going to get $50 off of that $1,200 total arrears that they owe. So after 1 year, it's going to reduce it down to $600. Another year of paying on time, that $1,200 is completely gone. Customer is not responsible for that. Customer can just continue paying their $54 each month to maintain their utility service, okay? So the PIP Plus program is a really good option for, you know, consumers who are in that income threshold. It helps them maintain their utility service. And then the customer responsibilities to stay on PIP each month, pay their PIP installment, preferably on time, in full by the due date. And then of course every 12 months, they have to re-verify their household income. Basically, you're recertifying that you're eligible for the program. And then there's also what's called an anniversary date. The customer has to be current at the anniversary date. So if they've missed maybe a payment or so, you know, once or twice a year, they would have to true up their account at the anniversary date. So that's how the PIP program works. And so that's all the information that I have as far as utilities and credit. I hope you got some really good information there. You can always reach out to our agency, the Ohio Office of the Ohio Consumers Council at occ.ohio.gov. be more than happy to provide you with some fact sheets and some good information as to how to maintain your utility service.